Eesti ettevõtluskõrgkool Mainor 20. juubelipäevale. Meie juubelipäev saab algust, nii nagu lubatud, siis ettevõtluse ja hariduse aspektidest rääkiva konverentsiga ja järgneb siis nii-öelda juubelisuplus, siis võimalus külastada ka innovatsioonilinnakut ja kui te nägite, kutse peale oli kirjas, et Eesti ettevõtluskõrgkool 20 aastat. Kas 20 aastat on väike aeg või on ta pikk aeg? See oleneb kust nurgast vaadata, sest kui me mõtleme ka teisi Eesti institutsioone ja ettevõtteid, võib-olla isegi ka meie Eesti Vabariiki, siis 20 aastat on just see aeg, kus me oleme saanud iseseisvalt ja vabalt tegutseda. Meie organisatsioonist on saanud noor, ettevõtlik, saavutus, jänuline organisatsioon, kelle uueks väljakutseks kindlasti on tõsisem rahvusvahelistumine. Sellest ajendatud ka meie tänane konverents, kus on kutsutud osalema väga mitmeid rahvusvahelisi esinejaid ja sellest johtuvalt ka on meie konverentsi keel inglise keel. Tere tulemast ja loodan, et leiate ka tänasest päevast oma edaspidisele tööle, võib-olla teadustööle, uusi mõtteid, aga samas ka uusi kontakte edaspidiseks tegutsemiseks. Mõnust päeva. Dear guests, as I promised you, I will start in Estonian, because starting from now we switch the English language, and the only language we speak in this room will be English. Thank you that you came to the Estonian Entrepreneurship University of Applied Sciences 20th anniversary day. What do you think? Is 20 years a long period or is it a short period? We were discussing in the morning about the age of different institutions and the development of entrepreneurship, and actually 20 years is the time Estonian enterprises have had the liberty to operate in free society. So from that angle, 20 years is quite a long time. And if you think about Estonian Republic, it's also approximately 20 years of age. So this is quite a long time. During these 20 years, we became a young, energetic, entrepreneurial institution, and our new challenge is internationalization. So this is why we all gathered here to discuss the entrepreneurial and creativity issues with help of you all. So, and as I said, we switch to this English language and we start and go from here in English. So thank you for coming and enjoy the day. And now, Thomas, I think it's your turn to go on with the conference. Thank you.
Good morning also from my side. My name is Thomas Pepper. I'm teaching art and design history in Germany, and I have the honor to chair the first section of our conference day. But I will take that opportunity first to thank you very much for your invitation, and I think that I speak for all the speakers of my section that we are very happy to have the opportunity to be here. And of course, it is the opportunity also to congratulate, so congratulations for your 20th Jubilee, which is, well, the framework of our conference today. As a chair of this section, my job is to introduce and to motivate the audience to participate. That is, to take the opportunity to ask, to comment, to discuss. And that will be the main issue of my job here to do, so I really hope to be able to work with you together, dear audience. First, I have to welcome our first speaker. For the welcome address, I'm very happy to be able to introduce Henrik Wolf from the University of Applied Sciences, Arcadia in Finland, and as a welcome speaker, he will say some words to his personality first. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, good morning, everybody. My name is, as was mentioned, Henrik Wolf. I'm rector for this institution with the name up in the left corner, Arcada, the University for Applied Life in Helsinki, in Finland. The Arcada is a foundation-based university, so in this respect similar or more or less have something in common with your institution here. And the reason for me being here, I think, is not that I'm so especially, good at or involved in entrepreneurial education or research, but because we are quite entrepreneurial, Arcada, and this institution, Estonian Entrepreneurship University of Applied Science, we are together quite entrepreneurial, since we are about to establish a joint venture for doing common research. So we are going to deal with this university much more and deeper, I think, in the future, for dealing with what we might call educational export. But saying some words Arcada, so that you know whom you are going to cooperate with in the future. We are as I mentioned, we are a foundation, so in respect of a private, state-funded institution located in Helsinki and essentially Swedish-speaking. That's the reason why we are on the market to serve Finland, as a bilingual country and serve the interests and needs for the Swedish-speaking minority in Finland. We are also fairly international. At the bachelor level, around 12% of our students are non-Finnish international students taking the whole program from about 45 to 50 countries, which actually 12% of should be, I think, the largest, proportionally the largest figure. All institutions, all universities, all institution higher education counted in Finland. But we are also apparently being a Swedish institution, essentially, we are not very much bigger than your institution here. Around 3,000 students altogether at one campus in Helsinki. So this is something about our background. What I see, we're going to have an interesting seminar today, focusing on entrepreneurial education and actually also creativity, as we mentioned in the program for today. And I want only to make a short introduction to what I expect that we are going to discuss today. Firstly, we very much support entrepreneurship in different aspects in Finland, and of course you can have a look at entrepreneurship from a lot of different perspectives, and I think all will be covered in some way or the other today. It's of course the major and most essential thing for economy is that to create startups, growth companies for the future. That is certainly the most important. But entrepreneurship is also a capacity, a mental state of people to be able to be entrepreneurial, regardless of whether they start up their own companies or not. What we often call also entrepreneurship. And then perhaps least important, but also very often present there, is that when you don't get another job, you start to become you start up your own company just to be for self-employment, just like freelance working. Actually, these can be quite fruitful as well, but the entrepreneurship is, from my opinion, from the economical point of view, from a societal point of view, important, particularly when we talk about company for growth company that will employ other people. And why is it important then? Certain perspectives which I came up with or thought of course, the major issue on a European level are, of course, the great societal challenges that need entrepreneurial aspect, that need new innovation, new companies. And with the great societal challenges, I mean the problem with climate change, the problem with energy supply, worthwhile water supply, food supply, health problems, aging population in Europe, and all these challenges need new ideas, new innovations. That's a problem for Europe today, is that the return on investment in higher education and research is not good enough to deal with all these challenges. We all need to promote these challenges and make our impact on solving these problems. And entrepreneurship and innovation and creativity are essential for dealing with these problems. And that's, of course, the major reason for me, that's why it is so important. Secondly, of course, we already deal with short cycles in technology development, which needs new points of view, new business environment. The big companies companies don't always employ people. They outsource part of their activities, and then that's why you need new business environment. We need and that's also entrepreneurship is important. And of course, new learning strategies. We are in the institution. For me, that's also important. Is important for where entrepreneurship is important. And then, of course, being an institution for higher education, where education plays a certain role, I very much look forward to what this seminar will come up to according education or higher education. What can you do really in education to support entrepreneurship? I think in a way this perhaps may be one of the interesting features of today, how we will deal with this question. But of course, for me this seminar will be certainly interesting, and I hope we will have an enjoyable day today, and it actually will last till the late midnight or something like that. So from my side, I very much appreciate this, and I look forward to a successful seminar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wolf, for this introduction, and it's directing us to our main target, main issue of today, the entrepreneurial question, I would say. Within this question is included the question, what can we do? Which components are elementary for higher education in this field? But you also pointed already out a very important thing, that the entrepreneurial personality is a thing to concentrate on. So education may be understood in a wider sense also, because we have to concentrate on not only what can we do like a business plan, but what can we encourage in personalities. So, and hopefully also our next speaker, whom I'm very happy to welcome warmly, will give points of insights into this question. I'm very happy to welcome here my dear colleague from Germany, Hans-Jürgen Weisbach, who was born some 60 years ago, and since 1995 is a professor for technology, assessment, innovation, management and entrepreneurship at the University of Applied Sciences in Frankfurt. Frankfurt, well-known business and banking town in Germany. Of course, I do not have to add any words to this. He has published quite a lot in the field. He founded the known Institute the EEK Institute in Dortmund already in 1990, and since he is still working in that field, 2005, he initiated the Institute of Entrepreneurship, and in 2006 the so-called incubator at his Frankfurt University. So please, Mr. Weisbach, take over the word.
Mrs. Rector, Mr. Chairman, dear guests, dear colleagues, dear students. My name is Hans-Jürgen Weisbach. I'm coming from Frankfurt, and first of all, I will send you the congratulations and best wishes for your anniversary on behalf of our institute, on behalf of the director of our institute, and of the Fachhochschule Frankfurt. Fachhochschule Frankfurt, or the Institute for Entrepreneurship, is even much younger than your institution here. It has been founded in 2004. We have institutionalized entrepreneurial studies, and 2 years ago an MBA program on entrepreneurship and business development. The Fachhochschule Frankfurt has about 10,500 students. Tendency is still going up. These students come from more than 100 countries. We have 4 faculties, and I must say that most of our founders come from business administration, economy and law faculty, not from technology. That's a part of the problem my first speaker has mentioned already. So my issue today is about creativity, but not from the individual perspective, not so much from the perspective of the individual traits, but from the evolutionary point of view. There's a broad consensus that creativity is a basic element of entrepreneurship, and creativity and innovation by definition involves the creation of something new. This act is central to the entrepreneurial process. So creativity, as Pretorius, Miller, and Kruger say, is clearly part and parcel of the entrepreneurial skills required to successfully start a venture, but vice versa, vice versa, entrepreneurship is a lever of the creative renewal process of the economy as a whole. Startups are considered to be the important agents of innovation, not simply in terms of the products, processes, and services they provide, but also in terms of technologies and methods. And thus, startup entrepreneurs could be argued to be, by their very nature, the essence of creativity and innovation. But there's a question, what is creativity? If we look at creativity, in former times it was seen as a magical, nearly magical force attributed to the individual genius. Since Guildford, it was regarded as a cluster of individual traits like sensitivity for problems, flow of ideas, flexibility of the direction of thinking, ability to redefine objects and purposes of objects, elaboration and adaptation of ideas to reality, original thinking. In modern theories, the ability to recombine information and matters in a way that the combinations are appreciated and valued by others has been the dominant definition of creativity. And in latest theories, creativity is the ability to shape creative systems, creative networks, creative social and communication environments. An ability which can no longer be attributed to single persons, but to the generic system itself. If we look at entrepreneurial creativity in history, we find that different types and phases of entrepreneurship require different styles of creativity, as well as different objects of entrepreneurial activities, like material, immaterial activities, or physical, social activities, require different type of creative action as well. Let's have a look at the classical theories of entrepreneurship and how they define creativity. The Schumpeterian entrepreneur is defined by the ability to creative combination of materials non-material forces and resources as a basic element of economic growth and entrepreneurship. This refers to products, to production methods, markets, materials, as well as to organization. Today we should add also to business models. New combinations do not substitute old combinations on the spot. They rather grow slowly and in niches, but after some time they would destroy their competing combinations. In most cases, innovative businesses are not based on old resources and forces. For example, on unemployed labor, on industrial wastelands, old machinery. As Schumpeter said, the postmaster has not invented the railway. Therefore, entrepreneurial creativity of the Schumpeterian type creates an economic disequilibrium, or at least is contributing to it. So Schumpeter speaks of the process of creative destruction. This means that the Schumpeter entrepreneur has, or the activities of the Schumpeterian entrepreneur the social costs are relatively high. Schumpeter's entrepreneur, by his creativity, limits the permanent accumulation process of goods and wealth. He makes production factors obsolete, who seldom have the chance to be reintegrated in new production processes. And the Schumpeterian entrepreneur does not pay for the social costs. The consequences have to be handled by the welfare state and by European social funds or regional funds or other agencies. Let's have a look at the theory of Knight, H.P. Knight. For Knight, the ability of taking risk is crucial for the entrepreneur. He has to deal with uncertainty that is incalculable in statistical terms. That's the famous Knight's uncertainty. The entrepreneurial ability requires a creative approach towards undefined and non-predictable situations, thus creating uncertainty for others. The social costs can also be high, as well as the social costs of the activity of the Schumpeterian entrepreneur. As global economy has become less predictable since the 1970s, Knight's definition of the core of entrepreneurship has become very up to date. A similar position is held by Peter Drucker and also by H.B. Jarrett. From the point of view of the classic microeconomic theory, the entrepreneur must not be, or is not always be a creative actor at all. Traditional microeconomic theory assumes that the combination of productive resources is induced by the price system. According to this view, the entrepreneur does not play a particular dominating role in the process of economic development. He is rather an arbitrager, who buys goods at low price and sells them at high price without taking a particular risk, as already defined by Cantillon. He is taking advantage of the market disequilibrium, but compensates it by balancing supply and demand. This microeconomic point of view is a, let's say, a very harmless role description of the entrepreneur compared to Schumpeter or Knight's entrepreneur with their rather destructive role. Let's have a look at one more modern theorician, at Isabel Kurtzner's theory of entrepreneurship. For him, markets are not given entities, but they are created by the entrepreneurs, who creates information about potential production factors and sellers' markets. The model of complete information is insufficient for Kurtzner because each participant on the market has a particular set of information. Markets have to be first discovered and then need to be shaped. The Kurtznerian entrepreneur is a discovery of unused and inactive production factors that can be creatively recombined. His particular trait or competence is alertness. He is able to discover opportunities that others do not see. This is really an individual feature. So he is contributing to the market equilibrium by non-destructive entrepreneurship. Very famous examples are making furniture from pest plants in Vietnam, or export of chicken feet from Brazil to Southeast Asia as a source of protein. However, the Kurtznerian entrepreneur will remain a small niche entrepreneur. That means the chances to grow are rather restricted, rather limited. In some cases, negative external effects of the Kirchnerian entrepreneur are higher than the income created by him. For example, if he makes use of public or free resources in an excessive way. Then I come to a model which has been very famous in Germany, Günther Faltin, the Faltin entrepreneur. According to Günther Faltin, the modern entrepreneur needs only to combine existing services, knowledge, or ideas that are already provided on the market based on the internet economy. The internet is a sort of public good, and it allows the entrepreneur to combine production factors, productive resources at zero cost or at a low cost level. This is easier in a network economy than in traditional economy. Services can be provided at low fixed costs and are saving thus fixed costs. The creative idea is much more relevant than the resources owned by the entrepreneur. This is the formula is brain beats capital. The minimal entry conditions for the entrepreneur have been improved. You need more brain, you need no or little capital to enter the market. Faltin's entrepreneurship has to combine key partners, key resources, key processes, customer relations, distribution channels, and customer segments around a value proposition in a business model generation matrix. That's what we ask to do our students. They should generate this business generation matrix. They should fill this matrix rather than to write long business plans. Thus, open innovation is a paradigm, is an excellent option for the Faltin's entrepreneur. This is the canvas, the so-called canvas of Osterwalder and Mainor. In the last 2 years, this has been very popular in Germany. It can be seen as a visualization of the Faltin approach. By systematic and creative brainstorming, the fields of the canvas are filled with the particular characteristics of the individual business, and the business model is a creative combination of these 9 key factors. As we have learned, many modern authors insist that creativity is no longer an individual competence, but a systemic resource and process that is always in an evolutionary process. According to Peter Kruse, creativity is an open systemic process that needs 3 types of actors. The creators that are providing new ideas. Their age is in most cases under 30, so your school is in a creative age at the moment. Then knowledge owners who think more in depth. They are generally under 40. And knowledge brokers and networkers. These are the elder ones. To enable this process, we have to accept instability and a loss of control over our knowledge, over licenses. And so we have to trust others. We have to leave our knowledge to others. And we feel that there is a certain correlation of these roles with the age. Creativity, formal creativity, is highest in younger age, while the ability to broker and to deal with innovation is increasing with higher age. So Buchanan has shown for the industrial design sector that creativity is being involved in 4 orders that are also closely related to the phases of capitalist development. That's another evolutionary perspective of the theory of creativity. That's the Buchanan matrix. You find 4 stages. In the left upper corner, there is let's say, the first stage of capitalist development, invention of new signs, symbols, images, etc. Then of physical objects. This is 19th century. Then it's decision-making about activities, services, and processes. And then it is evaluation about systems, environments, ideas, and values. The first and second order of creative product design can historically be cited in the industrialization period, characterized by the development of the large market leaders based on productivity, competition, and market share. Creativity was on, the focus of creativity was on functionality and reducing costs. The third order of strategic planning commenced at the end of Second World War. the focus was on creative marketing and action plans and strategies for a competitive environment. And the fourth order, which is described as systemic integration, embraces pluralism and a shift towards knowledge-based and learning organizations. It's marked by an evolution of the question, what's our business, to what capabilities do we need to develop in order to take full advantage of those changes. And the Osterwalder canvas can be regarded as an example of this fourth stage. Now my last question is, what type of entrepreneurial creativity do we need today, or do we need in the future? The Global Entrepreneurship Monitor has defined 3 types of economies. The factor-driven economies, for example, countries with extractive industries, agricultural countries, etc. Efficiency or productivity-driven economies, and innovation-driven economies. And the total rate of entrepreneurial activity is highest in factor-driven economies and lowest in innovation-driven economies. Because making up a business in an environment where nearly everything is scarce does not require as much capital and know-how as in industrializing countries, and not as much knowledge as in innovative economies. Factor-driven economies have a very low level of creativity needed for success. Countries with big sectors of extracting industries are not as a good place for highly creative entrepreneurship, but rather for international investors. Examples for Kirchnerian entrepreneurship are to be found in these countries, for example, waste digging, exploitation of free goods, ground, water, rainforest, etc., etc. But you have a high rate of business in informal economy. In efficiency-driven economies, there are Schumpeterian strategies dominating, dealing with calculable risks. You have a high capital input, economies of scale, competition by price. The markets are predictable, and the focus of creativity is on inventing new methods to make better use, more effective use of production factors at a lower price. That Schumpeterian entrepreneurship means creating new combinations of more productive factors and forces. In innovation-driven economies, the Knights and Faltin strategies are dominating today. Dealing with uncertainty is here the main problem. The markets are unpredictable, consumers' behavior, reaction to innovation will be unknown. So you have a high failure rate, but on the other side, low obstacles of establishing a business because a lot of ideas, services, and goods are already existing on the market. Kirchner's entrepreneurship, making use of public goods like the internet or ideas at zero costs in Web 2.0, Google, Facebook, etc., is very typical for this phase. For example, the customers are a zero-cost resource. At the same time, they are suppliers of information because they are producing input for free for Google or for Facebook or for others. Now, I come to the end, making some remarks on the situation on the countries in Central, Eastern, and Southeastern European that are extremely heterogeneous. We have here factor-driven economies, efficiency-driven economies, innovation-driven economies, mixed economies, and partly greenfield situation, partly brownfield situation. What's common is a still high belief in the role of the government as stimulator and planner for entrepreneurship, and a widespread ignorance with regard to the failure of the promise of the European Union, the countries to become the most productive economy of the world, the Lisbon process. In my opinion, it has failed. So we have to look what type of creativity, what type of entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial activity do we need in different situations and countries. My opinion is that Kirchnerian entrepreneurship should be given more attention because it has been neglected in favor of the Schumpeterian growth. Increasing attentiveness for existing cheap or cost-free local resources is needed. This is also a question of the cultural and social milieu and its impact on entrepreneurial orientation. The Kirchnerian entrepreneurship fits very well for small and medium enterprises, for niches without global competitors, and it creates niches without global competitors. The use of free resources guarantees a sort of differential rent, according to Ricardo. The ability to find resources for free can be trained in and outside schools and university. That's a very interesting method. We start with observing the room. What can the room be used for? What resources are in this room that can be used for entrepreneurial activities? Kirchnerian entrepreneurship do not wait for foreign investors whose capital will solve all problems, but they start to work with local resources. A very important question is that, or whether too much creativity can lead, or how much creativity a society can integrate, and the question whether entrepreneurial creativity can become parasitic. One should pay attention, however, that creative Kirchnerian entrepreneurs do not consume public goods or subsidized services that value more than they can create, the income that they are able to create. This we would call parasitic entrepreneurship. Do not let them cause negative external resources by searching for free resources. Entrepreneurs who do not pay taxes for the infrastructure and no social insurance for their employees, who cannot care for their pension and health insurance, and who earn less than about the average wage per year in the society as a whole, are in danger to become a parasitic segment, in the long term at least. Not only the public sector can be parasitic with regard to the private sector, but entrepreneurs can also be parasitarian with regard to their own species and to the public sector. There has never been a society with more than about 30% entrepreneurs. For this we have a lot of historical evidence and also evidence by psychological research. Most entrepreneurs will profit from mastering their routines and not from inventing completely new things. The highly innovative startup is rather the exception and will be the exception than the rule, and will remain the exception as we are close to the end of the IT Kondratiev. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weisbach, for this very interesting speech you gave, which offered quite a lot of, at least for me, new material and quite a lot of knowledge about the phenomenon of creativity and entrepreneurship. But I do not want to comment on it myself. I now really invite you to ask questions, to take the opportunity to ask the expert if you have any questions, or to comment, to point out contradictions, whatever you would like to say. So for breaking the ice, as an art historian, for me, always was clear that creativity is a very vague phenomenon, never to know how that works. Starting already in the word creatio, that means ex nihilo, that means there's someone creating something out of nothing. Now I learned that even the entrepreneur is also a very difficult phenomenon, and that we have to combine then more concentratedly than in the past. I really like that sentence, we need more brain, not capital is needed in the first place. This is one type of the entrepreneur you profiled. So this is really the question for higher education, how to get brain into it. So, and this is the right question for a institution like this who is dedicated to giving brain into entrepreneurship in Estonian country. But again, are there any questions, please? Yeah. Would you please stand up and wait for the microphone, please?
Thank you. My name is Tiit Terenorm, and I am conducting at Mainor such a course, Entrepreneurship and Business Environment. And I have such a question that, well, we have very established concept by Lumpkin and Tess, which deals with entrepreneurship, or actually entrepreneurial orientation. But based on this material, this discussion, what you presented, Dr. Weisbach, is it actually right to speak about one entrepreneurial orientation, one and only? Because if we take this concept by Schumpeter, by Kirchner, by Knight, and see people who accommodate their activity to one of these concepts, shouldn't we speak about several different entrepreneurial orientations? Thank you.
Would you answer to it directly? Yes. Yeah.
Thank you for the question. You are completely right. Of course, nearly every entrepreneur embodies some features, some traits of the different types of entrepreneurship. But the chance to invent something completely new is very, very low today, because nearly everything is existing. So we have the chance to recombine existing processes, existing activities, existing suppliers, etc., customer segments. But therefore you need another view, another perspective than, let's say, the technician who invents a type of machinery, mechanical machinery or so. So every phase of entrepreneurship has some particular requirements. If you speak of entrepreneurial orientation, I would say there is no evidence that we have, let's say, a mainstream among the people who become entrepreneurs, a main type or something like this. We have people with very, very different traits. And according to psychological studies, we would observe that most entrepreneurs are relatively quite normal, I would say, in quotation marks, normal people of the mid of the society with very particular traits. They shouldn't be too, not particular traits, they shouldn't be too open, not too creative, because they earn money from the routine, from the stabilized routine. They shouldn't be too routinized because they are not able to detect the changes in the environment, etc. So psychology is not, or does not give good answers to the question who is the best entrepreneur. And so we do not make any more assessment centers to find out who would be a good entrepreneur or not. We let them just come and ask them what they will do. Thank you.
Any other questions to this? I think that in the end of that section, we will have the opportunity to discuss also the speeches all together, and maybe also to really come to the point one of your last slides asked the question, in which countries, which type of entrepreneur is now needed or merely, promoted somehow by circumstances or by personality. So that would be very interesting for me also to open the discussion which type of entrepreneur, of creative entrepreneur is needed in Estonia nowadays. So, but that would be the general all-over master plan question for the end of this session, at least. So looking to the clock and looking to my next speaker, I welcome here Minna Tunkari Eskelinen from Finland, from the Faculty of Hospitality and Tourism, as you told me. We just met some seconds before. I would ask you to introduce yourself and then speak to your chosen subject, Entrepreneurial Pedagogy in a Service Management degree, the cooperative Hamara model, please.
Hello everybody, and I thank this opportunity to get an opportunity to have this presentation. As mentioned, I will introduce myself. I come from Finland, Jyväskylä, which is the very center of Finland, 250 kilometers to north from Helsinki. And this picture goes with, hand in hand, our city is like one side of the city which is called like Manhattan in Jyväskylä. So I come from YAMK, University of Applied Sciences, and we have 5 campuses in our city. And one campus is there in the picture right next to this very highest building there, and very next to chimney, if you can see the chimney as a very high red chimney there. So under this chimney there's a restaurant called IDEA, and that's our best practice referring to entrepreneurial pedagogy, which I'm going to present today. So my presentation goes very deeply into a practice. However, I have done research, entrepreneurship research, like 20 years already, 15 years doing more or less family business research, and I've been working all kinds of I've been working a lot with entrepreneurship education, and therefore I used a couple of theories behind this model, which I will show you. So, briefly, the agenda, some theoretical background of our pedagogy. I will introduce very shortly Hamara, which is the name of the team that runs business, and the business is a restaurant-based business. Some experiences of the students that have had run the business 10 months only. And I have also interviewed my colleagues, teachers who've been doing teaching or coaching, training with the students. And I also show some future plans which we have concerning this pedagogy. I myself work as a principal lecturer and in tourism hospitality degree programs. About the background theory. Well, as we know, entrepreneurship education should be considered both as a method and as a content of learning. As a method, I will show you later on what is it. Then, I think everybody knows Alan Gibb, who is very known about when it goes with entrepreneurship pedagogy and education. So he used to say that it is something that it is not to try using the rear mirror. My colleague in Jyväskylä has researched entrepreneurship as well, Juha Kansikas, Ulla Hytti in Pori and Turku, and they say that in order to advance entrepreneurship, we need enterprising environments. Then it goes the concept of autonomy as well, autonomy. And as a very basic, we understand that entrepreneur is seen as a free, holistic, and unique human actor. And this is what we try to advance in our students as well. So, implementing for teaching, we like our students to be an entrepreneurs someday after they have completed their degree program. And we try to provide them possibilities, and they could combine their resources in a new way, applying new information. And also this entrepreneurship is about taking responsibility for one's life and livelihood and creating risks. So Team Hamara is the cooperative-based enterprise with 15 students majoring in catering and restaurant services. And their idea is that they sell their skills and know-how as resources and operations in restaurants. And this case goes to a restaurant called IDEA. And it is owned by our university, but still the students, they work for this restaurant and get profit out of the hours they do there. Well, there are also all kinds of services right next to this restaurant, all kinds of sauna services, and also nowadays catering services that they sell outside the school. Here's the model that we use in order to get them 210 credits in all. So they have one nominated coach, then they are us, teachers, who work as consultants to them. And then there are supervisors, nowadays there are 2 of them. One of them is as a staff member that working in the kitchen, and one staff member working in the restaurant. So here are some, well, you may read the paper, there's more explanation there, but there are supervisors who are always with them in the kitchen or restaurant, so they are not all by themselves. Teachers as consultants, I think this is the most innovative way that we are doing this pedagogy. So, for example, we have, well, as we know, we all have education tasks, and we use here not classrooms, but all kinds of different space that are not full of tables and no slideshows at all. This is totally different than we have used to do it. And then what is our task? Coaching or training? We haven't figured out which one is we prefer to use in the future, but it is something that we facilitate discussion of the students, but we don't lecture to them at all. And what is typical in all entrepreneurial pedagogy is to face uncertainty, referring to a speaker before me. So we also give them opportunities to make mistakes, and they need to solve problems and face uncertainty. This is something that we try to provide them. Some experiences concerning this first year. All these 15 students will work as a human resource manager and financial marketing and catering manager positions. So there will be this kind of rotation. So everybody will know in practice what is it to be and as a manager of this kind of duties. Like 3 months at a time. Now I made a research based on the experiences, and I found out 3 categories that, based on their view about this pedagogy. They find that the student identity is quite important here. Now they really feel like being a part of the field, professionals, and a group as a family. Well, working as a team that works like 12 hours a day. Not all of them, but anyway, it's like a family. The third one is supportive actors. They see that it is nice that we teachers come and get them together like once or twice a week. That's still enough. But however, entrepreneurial culture goes, unfortunately, it's not that it's a profitable business for them. There are so many contracts that are not yet that entrepreneurial. But still they are advancing entrepreneurial culture, referring to what I just mentioned about this facing uncertainty and so on. Teachers' experiences, yes. But it's very hard due to the traditional structures of our degree programs that are not using this pedagogy. We as teachers, it's not that easy to go and have this kind of training sessions instead of slideshows. Then future plans. Well, we've been thinking, what about the training sessions? For example, I had this week, only 12 of them were there. 3 of them were working because restaurants need to be open. So what about if we only see them like once or twice a week as a teachers, and every time is 2 or 3 absent? Is it okay? Is it fine? Or should we move to the midnight hours? I don't know. And what about customers? They don't always understand that they are students. Actually, they are first or second year students. And the quality of the services it's not always perfect, as we know. How to communicate with that? And then participative innovation process for the staff. So we teachers who are interested to do this, we are very interested to develop and communicate with each other every week, every now and then. But not all the teachers that we have like 20 teachers there, are not that interested. How to make a systematic process that everybody is involved and trained to be advancing this pedagogy. And then, the very last one. I think we have a very good experience during these 10 months now, but I think we'll move on to the next step, which is that we don't force all the students to go and run business, but we will give an opportunity to have classroom degree program as well, because we noticed that not all these students are not that entrepreneurial, and they don't want to be like taking risks and facing uncertainty. Well, then course-driven work that we do and schedule. What should we do? We don't have a solution for that, but it might be so in the future that, like me, having 50 hours for having for teaching, is it so that I teach like 10 hours this month, 10 hours next month, and 30 hours a year after, because we don't know what they want, what they need in terms of learning. Maybe today it's important to learn research methods and making a questionnaire survey, and next week they will need like human resource management skills. Well, all these kind of problems we have faced. And then a demand for changing the learning culture in whole. In YAMK we have also business incubator, and we have team academy with cooperative models. But in terms of we are providing services to customers that are paying full price of the lunch, for example. How come we are providing services using students? I don't know if it's a problem or not, but if you have any questions, I'm glad to answer. more or less in a paper there are a lot of examples.
Thank you very much, Minna, for that insight in what you do at your home university. Hopefully, I will not have to be afraid that you talk too much about the restaurant, so now they are hungry in the first place and not so willing to discuss, but that is an open question. So, any questions, commands? Please.
Sorry, I don't want to monopolize.
Please wait for the microphone.
I don't want to monopolize question asking, but in a way, what you explained is also very close to our activity. But I have such a question that from entrepreneurial learning point of view, don't you have such a problem that you have in the class students who have different experience, different track records? So, for instance, that some already are entrepreneurs in practice. Others are maybe working for a large company. And third type of students that really they don't have work experience. How you try to, in such a process, create synergy among these different types of students? Or maybe you don't have a problem because nobody has real working experience. Thank you.
Well, I'm not sure if I understood right, but we also utilize the experienced people have. Usually they have a college degree, most of them have. But they are not, they don't want to take a risk and start their own company. And maybe in the future, the next year, we will try to utilize their selling skills, the ones who want to be an entrepreneurs. But I think that they are quite young. They are not entrepreneurs yet, like in 20s. Maybe did I answer?
Yeah. But in Estonia, in many cases, it's a different situation because people who are studying, they are often working already.
Yeah, you are right. That's a good point.
Any other questions on the model which was introduced? The idea, which is a fantastic name for it. Idea comes very close to creativity, I suppose, and combines entrepreneurship with creativity in the idea. So this is quite good. Holds the idea and the stomach together with the mind. In this case, especially in this case of a restaurant. If there are no more questions, you make me as a moderator very happy because I can continue in the timetable, but even more important is that we exchange ideas on this field. But to come to the next speaker, I'm very happy to introduce Philip Böchelmann to you, who is the head of a very newborn unit at his university. His university is only 2 or 3 months old. Of course, this is a political new construction in the wide Antwerp area in Flanders in Belgium. And my colleague will, of course, introduce himself. But as I learned from his small CV, he is often switching from practice to theory and vice versa. So that is really, he is one in between these vague fields we try to explore a little bit more. And as I learned, he invented a campus model, which he will introduce to us, which takes place on Friday afternoons, normally when universities are already evacuated, and at least in Germany at my place on Friday at 3 to 4 o'clock, there is nobody to meet. Well, we will learn about this and his new bachelor program in Flanders, Creative Industry Educating the T-shaped Professional, whatever that is, the T-shaped professional. So I'm very excited to learn about your ideas. Please, Mr. Bach.
Good morning. My name is Philip, indeed, from Mechelen. Thank you for inviting me in relation to the 20th anniversary of the University of Applied Science. As Thomas says, indeed, I think, well, I'm quite sure that I represent the youngest university structure here present, because Thomas More University College in its present form is only 3 months old. It started this academical year, but it's of course the result of a 2-year merging process between different institutions of higher education in the wider Antwerp region. So it's only a new name for a new structure, which is today a structure of 17,000 students, some 1,500 staff members, and in that case represents the heavy weight that I'm writing in the last sentence there, because having the ambition to create an entrepreneurial culture in an educational structure is often in contrast with the fact that the structure is so big. Entrepreneurship has often to do with dynamics, with quick responses to new ideas and innovations, and the bigger a structure is, the more difficult it becomes. Campus Fridays, the self-navigating student, is indeed the concept that I want to present. And for myself, I set a small CV in 4 sentences of the professional path that I did so far, which is quite different, I think, than most of us, because I was originally trained as an interior architect, so I have a designer's mindset, I think. In '99, I fell in love with education. It was as simple as that. It was from the very first beginning the thing that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. As a lecturer researcher on contemporary design, sustainability and innovation. And throughout the years, while working on the design education platform, I started to self-navigate and to transform myself into what I call educator on entrepreneurship, or an entrepreneurial education. And I call myself finally now an entrepreneurship education architect, because finally the things I do is exactly the same mental mindset as an architect or a designer. It's building things, it's creating something new out of nothing, but only the tools and the assets and the instruments that I use are not bricks or buildings, it's processes in education. Now, how did the concept of Campus Fridays raised? First of all, Campus Fridays is not exactly the same content as Thomas said, of using the Fridays afternoons, who are also in Flanders indeed, the moments when the campuses are totally empty. It's an idea of, or an ambition to think about the fact, if we want to create more entrepreneurial culture in our institutions of higher education, we need to question some paradigmas and some traditional structures which are present in higher education. And one of those paradigmas is also, for example, the working methods, like the idea is a way where students and teachers run a restaurant in this case. I already want to make a link for my presentation this afternoon, because Practice Enterprise, the team that I will talk about, is about those new types of working models. But another paradigm is also the curriculum of a certain course. And to explain you, this is the reason some years ago why I started to think about new ways of curriculum, of giving alternative learning and skills ways for students to prepare themselves for future professional life. So I was working some years in the field of design, and you see some beautiful examples there. And our observation was that we saw that the yearly output of intrinsic innovative projects was about 30%, which correlates more or less what you said, Professor Weisbach, with the 30% of entrepreneurial people that are in society. This means that if we take, for example, a group of 100 design students, they all have to make prototypes of new design stuff. Well, we can say that at least 30% of them are really intrinsic, innovative new ideas, firstly, but specifically are also products that are, have potential to be introduced in the markets. What happens with the other 70%? Well, they are more or less good, or they're not good at all. But that's something that we see. Then came a wondering, looking or towards what is happening after graduation with these intrinsic innovative products. Well, only 3% was actually introduced onto the market. That's a very strange phenomenon. So I started to wonder what is missing. What is missing in the learning, in the head of the students, let's say, to not go further with their good innovative products and introduce themselves to the market. At the same time, doing the observation, doing some research about it, and as a designer looking for inspiration to give new answers, the concept of Google Fridays, of Campus Fridays, came from what the big company, big structure like Google uses, namely Google Fridays, where they give the opportunity or the possibility for their staff worldwide to at least work one day on Friday onto new ideas or questions or specific topics that are not specifically paid for, that they are not, for example, a technician or a software developer in Google can think about some marketing strategies for those new technical products. So Google quite famously encouraged their staff to set aside their day-to-day work and what that they have to do every Friday to explore new ideas and new technologies. As the founder said, Google is not a conventional company, so I think that university colleges must see themselves also as not always being conventional companies. We do not intend to become one. And specifically what gives proof that giving the opportunity to step aside of the day-to-day work is that it is known that a lot of Google new projects actually germ, or the first ideas get in shape during Google Fridays. So having this observation and idea, I went a step further. But now if we translate this, yes, you will see that I use, as a designer, a lot of images. It's my way to communicate. I also believe that an image often says more than 1,000 words, so that's why you see it's very visualized. And here, for me, the pathway that students do, starting a 3-year bachelor course, starting curriculum, it's like in the Tour de France, a whole peloton of bikers climbing their way up to the mountain. And as in all pelotons, you have the front runners or the leaders who are the ones who are the first ones. You have a big mass of followers, or the platoon itself that is a little bit after it, but you have also the followers or the last ones who have difficulties to follow. So they climb the Mont Curriculaire. A strange thing that happens if we translate this into education is at the end, at the finish, at the moment of graduation, it seems like that everyone is a winner. Which is of course a little bit strange. We have our few leaders, our 30% of innovative and entrepreneurial students that pass with good scores. In reality, it's only 7% in our interior design course. We have a big platoon that also achieves the finish, who passes with something like 60%. But we have also a big part of students, which is very strange in my belief, who pass with, for example, 51% onto 100. They have their diploma, they have their graduation. I found that very strange. It is even so in Belgium or in Flanders that you can even pass without passing. We know students that were under the 50%, but thanks to democratization and especially the finance pressure of a government saying the more you deliver diplomas, the more you get financed, very strange thing. We have this strange situation. So I found it a big responsibility towards especially the platoon and the followers to give a possibility to also excel and to also be a winner, let's say, or a leader. And I think changing the paradigm or the concept of a curriculum could be a way. So this concept of Campus Fridays gets in shape, and learning by observation and dialogue. I want to tell you a little story about, it's a true story about a certain student called Ruben, who was a typical follower. He needed 4 years to pass his 3 years bachelor course. He was like always behind, his scores weren't so good, etc. But anyway, I've noticed him during those 2 years, and at the end of a course, this is happening, it's the moment of graduation, where the diploma is handed, and then a typical kind of conservation starts. And I asked him, okay, Ruben, what are you going to do now? And he said, I'm going to reactivate my passion. Reactivate your passion? Well, what is then your passion? We often think, because students are following a certain course, that automatically their passion will be about designing and creating new things. And he said, well, since I was 18 years, I am the yearly PR and marketing manager of the Belgian Gay and Lesbian Pride. I said, what? What are you doing here in a design course? He said, yes, well, I wanted to choose for higher education studies, and I felt at the beginning that design was something for me. And after 3 or even 4 years, I still feel that it is something for me, but I'm totally aware that I will not be able to become that top designer student that you as a course wants to be. Yeah? So I will see now my studies are finished, and so I will try to reactivate what I was doing before, being the PR and marketing manager of a yearly organization where this guy of 21 years old was able to organize a yearly event in the center of Brussels with 30,000 people. So I started to ask, Ruben followed our design course, but at the same time he was passionate and he had future vision ideas of combining design probably, or combining creativity with the fact that he was able of organizing, of being a good organizer, of being a good spokesman, etc. So what did we learn? Why were we as a teachers not aware or informed regarding Ruben's passions and views on professional life? But it's not only about helpless cases as Ruben. I mean, helpless in the sense of being a very, very average student in a course. Another true story is about Anne. And Anne was one of those few leaders. She was very good, she made good scores, really innovative projects. She passed everything in the course like nothing. We believed at graduation, okay, Anne is going to be that top designer who is going to have publications in the design books, etc. So the same questions came. And now, Anne, are you ready to become a top designer? She said, well, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? I mean, it's clear, it's crystal clear that you have the potential to become a top designer. 3 years later, I saw her back and I asked the same question. And she said, well, I started my own company in AutoCAD and 3D rendering, creating AutoCAD and 3D rendering of images for architectural firms, for design firms, for real estate firms. I'm not creating design projects anymore for myself. So that was a strange observation, having the idea of Anne being one of those innovative designers, finally found her passion and the things that she wanted to do in something which is a little bit different. As she said, the only thing that I like to do is to sit in front of my computer 10 hours a day and developing my own new software and creating the best possible 3D rendering and AutoCAD images. So she also combined her passion and love for design, but as a professional with something else, or at least something that we didn't offer her to do during the course. And that's, or the reason, or the lesson learned after Ruben and Anne and so many others, we always have different student profiles and different professional life ambitions, but we see quite often the same kinds of problems. And I think that the thing that is wrong is this. It is viewed in this cartoon, where you see, or you can see that our students are all those different profiles, and we have the teacher sitting in front of them asking the same question, but especially do the same thing, which is quite difficult. Probably the monkey will be the one who is first at top, but the penguin and the elephant and the fish, etc., how can they do this? And that's why this tree for me is visualized as being the holy curriculum tree, let's say, of a very strict and severe program who says to all students, regarding the totally different profiles that they have, you all have to climb the same tree. So I think we have to question the tree. We cannot replace the fact that we will always have those different profiles, but we can plant other and more trees, for example. I'm continue in images. I hope the contrast of the images is clear, but coming back from the holy curriculum tree, I visualized following a curriculum as a climbing wall, yes? In the head of a student, following curriculum or a course is something that they have to climb on. I think that the traditional concept of a curriculum is that holy thing that says at the beginning of a three-year bachelor course, you start there. But in difference of the possibilities that a climbing tree gives, it seems like a curriculum obliges the students only to follow one particular way to climb that wall. Yes, it's the same idea as the tree, let's say. The teacher standing on the bottom there is also someone who holds kind of a safety rope. Like Ruben, he passed. He had to use 4 years to pass, so he fell off the wall, let's say, and then climbed again. But again, he had to follow that same start here, one way up curriculum road. I think it must be possible to do this. To give the opportunity to students to follow their own way and to explore and use the different hooks and different points of a climbing wall to finally find their way up to graduation, let's say. Where teachers can take up the role as a coach, let's say, to guide students, telling them, okay, if you have difficulty passing a certain subject of the course, it probably has to do also with the fact that you're not totally interested in it, and let's have a discussion and see what you're really interested in. For example, in the Ruben case, we could have said him after a certain period of time, knowing that his passion was also next to strictly design, okay, why not try to follow 2 or 3 months or a certain kind of period of courses in a different department than specifically the design course, like for example in marketing, etc. The same for Anne. Specifically that we know that next to our department is a multimedia department where they do nothing else than creating new software. I think it's a small work, let's say, to create a specific program for all the Annes that we have, who have specific interest in software development, to actually step aside of the course or the curriculum and follow a certain time of their studies in another course. That's when students become self-navigating. It's the moment that they detect, and often it happens at the beginning of the 3rd year. It's the moment when they're starting to think about the future. And they detect, and they also see, on basis of their credits, well, I'll probably not be the top designer that this course wants to be, because that's the fact that this curriculum forces me to become a top designer, but I want to combine design and I want to combine other things in my future professional life, so I need the self-navigating possibilities to actually climb further. And then a coach can guide them and help them to say, okay, if the one way up curriculum way isn't yours, try another one. You know? So it's an idea and a belief that not only comes from a kind of a bottom-up observation that I do, working with students and trying to develop these new ways. If we look at some important world of work or policy demands that are now published, for example, which is really important, is a new skills for new job agenda of the European Union. We see that they ask for a better anticipation of future skills needs. Who will be different than the skills needs that are in the heads now. Develop better matching between skills and labor market needs. Bridge the gap between the worlds of education and work. Transversal key competences, and that hooks on the idea of the T-shaped student. I think a classical concept of a curriculum is an I-shaped student. You know, it's like the tree is standing there, and the student has to follow and produce skills in a very vertical way. But we see that the world of work demands more than strictly the technical skills of one course. If you look at an average message in a job advertisement, it is unbelievable what they ask for. They not only ask for some kind of an engineer, but he has to be interdisciplinary, he has to be creative, he has to be able to hook on different mental minds, etc. It is incredible how T-shaped, wide-shaped, wide-skilled our future workers, the students that we prepare now, have to be. So a T-shaped professional, I call it a specialized generalist, is someone who, on basis of passion and talent, has the possibility to be very, very skilled in a certain specific domain, but at the same time has equal transversal competencies to use those very vertical and specialized skills in all types of future professional environments. Improving the capacity of jobs and people to adapt to change. It is clear, I think, I think all of us more or less were trained in a period, and I look at myself as an interior designer, where the idea of having one life, one education, one job, it will be finished in like 10 years. I think we are facing a view of multiple career paths for our future workers, doing very, very different types of work throughout their life. If I remember for myself having my architectural training, also due to social pressure, etc., etc., I had a very long time, I suffered of stepping aside of doing the architectural practice myself, then went to theory and now went to practice again, because yes, I was in this culture of you're trained as an architect, you will become an architect and nothing else. And that is, for me, I think, is going to change more and more. So jobs will come back after the crisis, absolutely, but become more flexible, more demanding, more freelance, collaborative, less secure, etc. So how do we teach all these new skills? Being flexible, being able to adapt to change, more freelance, more collaborative, less secure, etc. Also policy demands. Our former Minister of Education in Flanders said these things. Education is too focused on technical or strictly knowledge skills. I think you all know also the very famous quote of Sir Ken Robinson, education kills creativity, where he says exactly the same as I do. Students should have the possibility to reinvent, re-navigate themselves during education, not after, but during. Education focuses on skills students don't have. It's the teacher saying to the penguin, you don't have the skill to climb up the tree, so that should be wrong. The education should say, oh, wait, penguin, you have a good skill in that domain, try another tree to climb up. Education doesn't focus on skills what students do have. Education must break down the walls between disciplines and build bridges, not partitions. That's when a student becomes self-navigating. It demands also an effort of courses of teachers to step aside of the holy curriculum, let's say, and to see with other colleagues and create, finally, interdisciplinary education. We need young people to become T-shaped professionals or the specialized generalist. How do we teach all this? It's also about student demands. It's not an observation that it's an observation that also comes while talking to Anne and Ruben and all the other students. And they say, well, we don't see ourselves anymore as you did, as the youth of today, and with a very clear profile. We think that the youth of today doesn't exist anymore. There are as many different interests and needs for the future as there are young people. And they also say we miss the opportunity to excel and explore our own talents. And that goes for Anne and that goes for Ruben, whether they're good or not good within a particular course. So, yeah, that's what a student does, I think, I hope, dreaming about the future while following a certain course. So I believe that the period of one life, one education, one job is finished within like 5 or 10 years. And having multiple careers will structure the way how we deal with professional life in the future. And I think there is a possibility to prepare students on that multiple career situation already during education. But then comes the heavyweights, the 17,000 students, 1,500 teachers. Institutions for higher education are like big mammoth tankers. It takes a lot of time to change their direction. But Campus Fridays can be, and I hope again that the contrast with the image is enough. Campus Fridays is one of those paradigmas or change in paradigmas, let's say, that you can visualize as a tugboat who helps this tanker to change direction. And then I visualized the concept in a process scheme for a new curriculum model, and you can see the traditional model is a very, very clear kind of rectangle or model which is focused, which is fixed, etc. I think we have to build curricula who work together with the four important actors. It's the world of work who demands different skills than the one who we train our students for. So the world of work has to become a structural educational partner. I think in general curricula are built from out of a teacher's point of view. Yeah? In some cases it's interesting to have a lot of people who are actually in practice. Like for example in the design course we have teachers who have their own practice in design and architecture, etc. to implement those new world of work skills that are needed. But in most of courses, teachers are people who come from academia who think to have the best idea to develop a kind of curriculum. So I think the world of work has to become a structural educational partner. We have the teacher itself, of course, who will still be the knowledge transmitter with the responsibility and the ambition to find ways to give new knowledge in the best possible way for the students. We have the institution itself, but then of course the student. And I think it should be possible to develop curricula where the four partners act together, even the student. We have to listen to our students and ask them, okay, how do you see the course itself? How do you see future professional life? What are your dreams and visions? And then I think the concept of a traditional curriculum can be changed by another one, a very flexible one, where, for example, more topics of the curriculum take care of what the world of work at a specific moment demands. I think a curriculum could be something that is changed every 5 years, because that is more or less, in Flanders, the shift in generations that we see with young people. If I see the curriculum concept of the actual design course, it is absolutely not different as the one that I followed myself 25 years ago. How is that possible? So I think there should be a possibility to create new, flexible curricula where the student navigates itself through. And another model can be this. And then, of course, a lot of questions come. For example, the question of, for the teacher, how can we preserve quality if we let go some certitudes about teaching, if we give more input to the world of work to actually be a structural educational partner? Are teachers going to be ready to let go some of those certitudes? What is the scale of Campus Fridays? Is it a complete curriculum or can it be just a small part? You know, Google Fridays is like 1/5 or 20% of the time that someone has to work at Google. It's 1 day. So is Google or Campus Fridays also 20% of a curriculum which is flexible or which gives self-navigating possibilities, etc. How can we engage the world of work as being a structural educational partner, because we will need their help constantly, etc. So finally, having Campus Fridays as a self-navigating flexible curriculum concept, we again have the same image of the climbing wall, but the teacher becomes a coach, and at a certain moment in the climbing of the student guides the student, and the student also gives new guidance itself by self-navigating, and finds other ways, find other hooks and points to hook on to finally go to the top. And it can even change at a certain moment as well. Because basically, the goal is for everyone the same. It's at the end, it's only the way towards the goal that can be different for students. And then he becomes self-navigating, and you'll have Campus Fridays. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much for that, I would say, very inspiring speech. I learned that your vision of a Campus Friday and the self-navigating student is not only demanding regarding the student, but it's very demanding regarding the teachers. And this, the question arises how we shall change the training system also of the teachers, of the professional trainers, to train then the students to become creative entrepreneurs and students like Mainor or An and all the others to gain their targets. So any questions to this visualized, in the sense of the slides, speech? Forget about the clock. Forget about the time. Are there any questions? Sorry? Well, we will have the chance to meet you again in a session, in a workshop this afternoon. So, and now I will change my rules and step to the cathedra, I would say. So it was very, very wise of the rector to put me at the end of my own session or section, because now it's up to me to really spoil the timetable. So this was a very, very wise decision. Thank you for that. Now, to be honest, my very short intervention wants to point out how, from the point of view of an art and design historian, creativity could also arise. I'm not trained in the theories of education or of entrepreneurship. I just, as a historian, regard what happened 100 years ago, let's say, or 60 years ago in the other case, and I withdraw my consequences from this observation. So if it is true that we need innovations, it is also true that we need creativity. We talked about the student and what he or she shall know everything: management, business plan, creation, must be very aware of techniques and everything what we heard. But I would say that a good designer, a new creative entrepreneur, should mainly be a good observer of his or her time. And I will point out this just in a couple of minutes, showing you two examples. This is a very well-known chair, I think not only in Austria and Germany, but worldwide, because it is sold widely since the middle of the 19th century, invented by Michael Tonet, who sold this bentwood chair. So the idea is to deform wood, bent wood, since the middle of the 19th century, and until 1930, about 50 million of these type were sold, and they are still in production, and nowadays, virtually without any changes, this chair is produced. So a very outstanding innovation in its time, one might say. But we will see whether there are parallels to other inventions and combining phenomena. So here you see, just to visualize a bit the chair and to understand it a little bit more complexly, you see here the force one needed to deform the wood with the help of water. And so this is the new idea, bending wood. The rest of the chair is not so important in our circumstances here. It is a very simple, a very light, a very mobile chair in the sense. The very revolutionary idea is that you can put the chair together only inside. So the ready chair is not produced in the company. It is sold in parts. We know that from a very famous Swedish company, which really bases on this idea. So let the customer, let the person inside construct the chair by himself. In this way, you can put 36 of these chairs in only 1 cubic meter of shipping box. And so this chair could really arrive throughout the world. But it did change not only the way of shipping this furniture and of the shape of its furniture, it also changed the seating arrangements. If you compare this new Toinette chair within the old fauteuil, well, the old big chairs which are not mobile, these new chairs took over the role of being flexible. If you needed one more person on that table, you just added a Toinette chair to that, because all the other fauteuil, very heavy chairs, were not mobile enough. So seating arrangements were changed. And this was very important to the new mobile society in the 19th century. Trains, the ships going from Europe to America, airplanes. You have these restaurants for leisure time, where you go, just spend some hours and then travel back, climbing in the mountains or going on the seaside. So this is becoming a leisure society somehow, a very mobile society, which was very strongly in the need of a mobile chair, of a light mobile chair, which allows new combinations of getting together without strict circumstances. And so this is just for curiosity, also then entered into newspapers and such spitting journals, which took over the idea of, well, the descendant morality of a society, because now it is so mobile and everything is possible. So here a young man gets closer to a waitress, and of course the Toinette chair takes over its rule in this mobile, allowing framework of the new society. Okay, outstanding idea, really fitting the needs of the new society, mobile, flexible, leisure. There is another thing we often overlook, a simple paperclip. Just invented almost at the same time in the US, so in the United States. The first patent was given for that a bit later, but of course this is the time when this was already in wide use and was sold all over the States. So the paperclip and the Toinette chair are virtually contemporary. They do not know from each other. So this is my thesis. Michael Toinette in Germany or later in Vienna did not know about the paperclip and vice versa. But they really answered the same needs. So what is a paperclip for? A paperclip is for putting papers together and allowing to open them again, to combine them in a new way just 1 hour later, 2 days later, or a year later. This is the difference to that pin you all know. A pin is virtually not temporary, but durable. These papers have to stick together. And this is directly how bureaucracy worked in the midst of the 19th century. You know, everybody knows that the English word for that is bookkeeping. That is, the papers were sewed into books for being in the books for the rest of the time. So the paperclip now allows to put things together and to remove them. And this is exactly what the advertisement of paperclips pointed out. A temporary attachment, quickly applied and removed. So a very sensitive and clever designer should have been noticing that the new needs of society were mobility and temporality. And exactly two very different products, a chair and a paperclip, made it. They are astonishingly very close also by shape. Again, I suppose that Michael Tonet on the one side of the ocean and the paperclip inventor, which is anonymous on the other side, did not know from each other. But they knew that deforming wood on the one hand and wire on the other hand was also a new signature of the new time. You know, this is colonial time. So deforming and suppressing something is maybe, you can say that, a signature of this time. And they both did a very light, a very flexible, a very mobile thing, which of low, low cost, the chair as well as the paperclip. And they directly answered to the new needs of the society, which was ready to go to coffee bars, to garden restaurants, to sit together to open the seating arrangements. This is the same is true for bookkeeping in that time. So what should a designer do? This is not a recipe which can be applied to everybody, of course. But being a seismograph, so really regarding, observing the time, shapes, forms, colors, needs, would be very helpful. These are two examples from the 60s, the years of 1968 to be more precise. It is one book cover and one advertisement for a Fasching, so a festivity, let's say. If you look to the forms, it comes very clear that they're very close to a very well-known, at least in France and Germany, I do not know about the rest of Europe, the Barber Papa comic figure, which was invented in '68, exactly in this year, which takes over this shape, this rounded shape. And exactly in the same year in Italy, without getting in touch to that Barber Papa comic, which was just invented in France, a very well-known new furniture, the sacco, the sack, was invented in Italy by a number of designers. So the needs of the time were being none of the establishment. New sitting conditions, that mean making deformable, flexible forms, sitting on the ground instead of sitting on real chairs. So saying no to any conventional furniture, saying no to any conventional rounded or rectangular form on the other hand side. Even the colors are very similar between the range of this furniture, sacco, Italian furniture, or anti-furniture, one could say, non-furniture, and the comic. So a designer should be trained in quite a lot of things, but mainly he has to be very aware, very observative, very sensitive to what happens around him. So I'm looking as a teacher for an idle student, of course, but we have to allow, and this is why I'm very happy about your speech, we really have to allow the student to look wherever he wants to go to explore his capacities and possibilities in different fields, to travel also, to go around. So being an entrepreneur, future good, perfect entrepreneur, also means to be a very awaked person. Okay, two other examples, and I will let you to go to the coffee break. You know about, I suppose you know about this very well-known analog notebook, which is sold all over the world. and which is by legend, not by history, but by legend linked to persons like Hemingway, Van Gogh, Picasso, and other authors. So a very creative matrix, one could say, by legend. This is an entrepreneurial invention. But nevertheless, knowing that that is the analog notebook which people are looking for, it's very clear that the digital notebook had to come very close to that analog notebook. So the idea of an iPad or iPhone is linked to the idle analog writing book, because it is so creatively linked to creative persons like Picasso or Hemingway, let's say. Okay, I think you got the point. Open your mind and have some coffee. Thank you.